Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, especially in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Of course, last night was AEW Dynamite on TNT, and given the fallout from AEW All Out Fallout last night on TNT. Everyone was expecting a lot of stuff, a big episode, and that's exactly what we got. We got Bryan Danielson, we got Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, CM Punk, Sting, Ruby Soho. There is so much to get into. John Moxley, Minoru Suzuki. There are so many AEW news stories to talk about today, so we're going to start off talking about Bryan Danielson as he made his AEW Dynamite debut last night, confronting none other than the Elite and the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega. Now, Bryan Danielson made his AEW debut last night, interrupting the Elite as they met in the ring. Now, Kenny Omega quickly told the Elite to give them room for a moment, and the other members of the faction jumped outside of the ring. Omega then told Bryan to step inside the squared circle as the crowd erupted in yes chants. Now, Omega said that Bryan was just the guy he wanted to speak with, and he would like to cut to the chase. Bryan then plucked the microphone out of the cleaner's hand and asked, "Quick question, do you guys want to see Bryan Danielson fight Kenny Omega?" The crowd, of course, responded by chanting yes in unison. "He's telling me it doesn't work like that here." This is what Bryan said. "Let me get this straight. You're the greatest wrestler that's ever lived. Nobody is on your level. I think you're afraid to take this match because I'm better than you. I'll kick your head in, and you are not on my level." Bryan got physical by putting Omega in the LeBell Lock submission hold, but the Elite rushed back into the ring to make the save. Jurassic Express and Impact World Champion Christian Cage ran down to the ring to make the save, clearing out the members of the Elite. Marco Stunt then got launched to the outside, knocking down several members of the Elite. Then Brandon Cutler, poor Brandon Cutler, yes, he's an AEW. Brandon Cutler was left all alone in the ring, surrounded by Jurassic Express, Christian, and Bryan. They finished him off with Bryan delivering his running knee finisher to Cutler's face. They all then celebrated together as the fans cheered on. That image right there that you can see right there is just unbelievable, to be honest with you. It's unbelievable that right there, Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson are facing off face-to-face inside of an AEW ring. Wow, because let's face it, whenever they have that match, and make no mistake, they're having that match very soon. I would argue maybe even as soon as the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite inside Arthur Ashe Stadium. Whenever they have that match, that is going to be absolutely superb. I mean, just no mistake about it. Absolutely fantastic. That match is going to be incredible. The only thing that might limit it, if it's on the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, is time, because they've only got 2 hours on TNT. Maybe they'll get a bit of an overrun, I don't know. That's the only thing that's going to hurt that match. Now, when it comes to this, there's several ways that they could do it. Obviously, part of the issue is, and this is the great thing about Kenny Omega as a heel, is that he's not lying. He's not lying. It doesn't work like that. Bryan Danielson can't just come in and go, "I'm going to face Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship." It doesn't work like that. AEW has a system in place where it's wins and losses. Wins and losses matter, right? And I know some people don't necessarily always agree with that. I'm for tracking the wins and losses. I think that's a smart way of storytelling. I think it's a legitimate way of doing storytelling. And most importantly, I think it's a different way of doing storytelling. So Bryan Danielson can't just come in and be like, "I'm going to face Kenny Omega AEW World Championship." That's not going to happen. What they can do, though, is non-title matches. They can do non-title matches, or in this case, they can do multi-man matches. You think at this point you've got Christian Cage, Jurassic Express, and it depends how many you want to include in this. Let's say it's all five. Let's say it's going to be 5 people. Christian Cage, Marco Stunt, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Bryan Danielson. That's 5 versus Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks. I guess it depends who you would involve here. Adam Cole, and then who would that 5th person be? I guess Brandon Cutler. That's a 5-on-5 match that realistically could happen at the Arthur Ashe Stadium show. And then I guess then from that point you then can get to Full Gear and do Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson, because you can have Bryan Danielson win matches between now and then. That's a real possibility. I think maybe that's the most likely outcome, because again, I think that Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, considering how monumental that match is and how great, let's face it, that match will be, that match shouldn't be limited to just television time, in my opinion. Make no mistake, I think they're going to load up that Arthur Ashe Stadium show. We've already got one match announced, which we'll touch on later on. So we know what matches are going to be coming. There are going to be big matches involved. I expect Bryan Danielson to be wrestling that night. I expect CM Punk to be wrestling that night. I expect Adam Cole, Kenny Omega. I expect all the big names to be working that night for the Arthur Ashe Stadium show. But when you do Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, for me, I want that to have the most time possible. I don't want there to be any restrictions of, man, if they got an extra 5 minutes or an extra 10 minutes, or if they didn't have to go to commercial, all that kind of stuff, that TV matches, that's the problem. So I think we're probably going towards a 10-man tag, or a multi-man match, certainly, at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. And I think that might propel Bryan Danielson to Kenny Omega at Full Gear. But again, that would involve Bryan Danielson having several matches, wouldn't it? Several matches between now and Full Gear to get up the rankings. So I think that's the direction they're going to go in. Could be wrong, but they're starting off hot. They're starting off hot, and they know, look, AEW right now is in such a fortunate position because they're in a spot right now where, look, they have just got dream matches for days, absolute days. Whether it is Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson, whether it's Kenny Omega versus CM Punk, whether it's CM Punk versus Adam Cole, CM Punk once again versus Bryan Danielson. You obviously got Cody Rhodes involved. You've got Hangman Page. I mean, you've got Jericho. You've got MJF. You've got, the list goes on and on and on and on of all of these amazing matches they have at their disposal. So to start off hot with Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, which I think is the match everyone wants, right? That's the one. We're talking two of the best wrestlers on the planet today. Certainly in the last 10 years, the best in-ring workers. I mean, they're right up there, Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. That's the match. So it would make sense for me to have that on a pay-per-view because let's face it, if you put Danielson versus Omega, main event, Full Gear, that's going to do big business. Big business, and it would be very exciting. So I think that's where they'll be going when it comes to the more immediate future for the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. I think they're probably, I could be wrong here, but going for a multi-man match. Could be wrong there. Now, speaking of the Elite as well, we saw Adam Cole make his AEW Dynamite debut with the Elite last night. Former NXT champion Adam Cole appeared with the Elite on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, Cole made his first impact this past weekend at All Out when he superkicked Jungle Boy as he aligned himself with his former stablemates. Now, Cole promptly reunited with his friends in the Elite, claiming the group was the most dominant faction in all of pro wrestling. Now, last night on Dynamite during his debut, Cole called himself a once-in-a-generation wrestler, and that AEW is, quote, best professional wrestling company because of the Elite. Cole also noted that the Elite is now complete. That rhymes. He then revealed that fans can see him in action next week on Dynamite, where he'll make his AEW in-ring debut. That will be against Frankie Kazarian. Make no mistake, Adam Cole's not losing. he ain't losing next week against Frankie Kazarian. Don't get me wrong, I think Kaz, obviously, I think Kaz is a great worker, a veteran. He had Christian Cage's first match when he came to AEW as well, so he's obviously trusted in that spot. The whole Elite Hunter, and I know he came out during this segment as well, and maybe he might be involved in that multi-man match that they do. Maybe he'll take Marco Stunt's spot. Instead of having Marco in the match, maybe they'll have Frankie Kazarian involved in that match. No disrespect to him, that whole Elite Hunter gimmick just doesn't do it for me. Not because it's a bad gimmick, just because it's Frankie Kazarian and it's not threatening at all. You call yourself the Elite Hunter, but who have you hunted? Who have you successfully hunted down? It's just a bit it's a bit odd, you know. So I get that he's got to have something to do, considering SCU aren't a tag team anymore, and Daniels is transitioning more and more into just doing talent relations, which he also does for AEW. And I guess he has to have something, right? But it's just a case of, I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me. So I'm sure the match will be fine next week, but Adam Cole's winning. Make no mistake about it. Adam Cole's not going to lose on his debut, certainly not to Frankie Kazarian, but it's another thing to be excited about when it comes to AEW. Adam Cole making his in-ring debut on Dynamite next week. Now, a big story yesterday, of course, was the PWI 500 list dropping. And this is the thing. I was almost really hesitant to even talk about this. The reason I was hesitant to talk about this is because for me, whenever lists or awards come out, regardless who they're from, whether it's Pro Wrestling Illustrated, whether it's the Wrestling Observer newsletter, whether it's whoever, whenever they do these awards, I'm always hesitant to talk about them because, let's face it here, not to denigrate their work, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, and like star ratings for matches, everything's subjective. It's just opinion. That's what makes this channel so great, is that Everyone's allowed to share their opinion. I'm not going to knock anyone or criticize anyone for their opinion. I might offer a different opinion or a counterpoint or maybe question why and how you've come to that opinion, but I'll never criticize anyone for sharing their opinion. So when it comes to like lists and awards, I'm always a case of like, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, we'll talk about it because, as to be expected, pro wrestling social media exploded yesterday after Kenny Omega was announced as the number one ranked wrestler in the 2021 Top 500 list from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Now, PWI's Al Castle appeared on Busted Open Radio yesterday morning and announced that Omega will top the annual list this year. Now, Omega was ranked number 13 in 2020, which was topped by Jon Moxley. He ranked number 8 in the 2019 list, which was topped by Seth Rollins, but he did rank number 1 in 2018. The top 10 for 2021 looks like this. AEW World Champion and AAA Mega Champion Kenny Omega. Number 2 is WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Number 3 is WWE Champion Bobby Lashley. Number 4 is Drew McIntyre. Number 5 is Kota Ibushi. Number 5 is Jon Moxley. Number 6 is Will Ospreay. Number 7 is Finn Balor. Number 8 is Shingo Takagi. Number 10 is Rich Swann. I might have missed one there, or I must have read that wrong. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What the shocking thing, I can't count in this list, but it doesn't matter. Because the one that people were talking about was Omega and Reigns, right? That was the thing, was how can Roman Reigns... It turned into an AEW versus WWE thing again. And it's not meant to be that. It's meant to be who they think, who they think is the top of the top, right? It's meant to be who they think is the best wrestler for the year, for 2020 into 2021, or the last 12 months. That was meant to be the thing. To be honest with you, there are arguments on both sides. Of course there are. There's an argument that Roman Reigns is number 1. Absolutely. The guy hasn't lost in a year, and also he essentially resurrected SmackDown. He's doing the best work of his career. He's the most over character in WWE. He's arguably the best heel in pro wrestling today, arguably the biggest draw in pro wrestling today. It's difficult to argue a case to say that he's number 1. On the flip side of things, it's very difficult to say that Kenny Omega shouldn't be number 1 as well. He was holding 3 championships across 3 separate promotions this year. He's the AEW World Champion. That's been doing the best business they've ever done. You have to think of it. Kenny Omega headlined the 2 most successful and bought AEW pay-per-view events of all time. Revolution earlier this year and All Out, which was the number 1. You had Impact Wrestling. He was the Impact World Champion. That show that he main evented was the biggest pay-per-view that Impact Wrestling have done since Anthem purchased the company in 2017. AAA, Kenny Omega had a great match against Andrade at Triple Mania that involved Ric Flair and Conan as well. It's difficult not to say that Kenny Omega also is absolutely deserving of that spot. At the end of the day, it's just opinion. It's just opinion, and it's not about AEW versus WWE. The problem is when anyone makes a list, and I know it's not just one person's opinion that goes into these kind of lists, but whenever it comes to that, it's just a case of, look, it's someone's opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. That's fine. That's what those lists are. Whenever they release the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards, whenever they release these lists, ultimately, it's to get people talking. Because if people talk about it, then they make more money, or they get more brand awareness, or people go onto their website, or people buy the magazine. That's just it. That's just it. It plays up to wrestlers' vanity and ego because they want to see how high they were ranked in comparison to last year and the year prior to that and the year prior to that. And it's something to aspire to in the future. The thing I said yesterday on social media is kind of my viewpoint on it. Instead of going, so-and-so should have been ranked here, and how dare this person be ranked higher than this person, instead say, congratulations, you're all very, very deserving. Ultimately, it's subjective, but congratulations, it's a great honor. That's it. That's it. But people want to make more of it than is necessary, and just, I guess that's kind of the world we live in right now. Now, because of this, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay traded shots on social media. Now, as I mentioned, Kenny Omega was ranked number 1 in the list. Ospreay was ranked number 7. The exchange began when Ospreay responded to a fan tweet on the top 10 and took a shot at Omega. He said, quote, "I'd beat up number 1 any day of the week and twice on Wednesdays, just saying." Omega then responded with a shot at Ospreay in New Japan. He said, quote, "Your promotion has been so ice cold since I left that not even Meltzer can convince his followers that you were part of any best in the world conversation. It hurts me, bruv. One of you dorks should have really been the guy. Turned out a bigger dog was my only competition." Ha! Kenny Omega just slapped him, paintbrushed him in the face. Well, Will Ospreay responded to that and defended New Japan. He said, quote, "Last chat we had was you need to be the guy. Since you left, we sold out MSG, sold more tickets at the Tokyo Dome than ever before, and put on banger after banger. A pandemic put the brakes on it, and you know it. Open that door, let's have this conversation." Now, it must be said that Will Ospreay's response to Omega there is questionable at best. The idea that New Japan, we sold out MSG. Look, that MSG show sold out not because of Ring of Honor. It did sell out because of New Japan, but most importantly, it sold out because majority of the people that bought tickets to that show in Madison Square Garden thought they were seeing the Elite. They bought tickets to see the Elite. They bought tickets to see Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, etc. And guess what? They didn't, because they went and signed with AEW. So I would pipe down about that one. I would pipe down about that one. Selling more tickets to the Tokyo Dome than ever before? Well, it was a 2-night event. That's kind of a case of, well, it was a 2-night show. Look, I suppose you can give them all the credit you want for that, but the idea that maybe Will Ospreay is a better wrestler than Kenny Omega is debatable. But in terms of the year, and you have to remember this is judged on how great of the past 12 months they've had. I don't think there's any question that Kenny Omega's had a better past 12 months than Will Ospreay. And Roman Reigns has had a better 12 months than Will Ospreay. That's just a fact. Ospreay's back to wrestling now, and will they ever have a match in AEW? Who knows? But again, it's this weird. This is why they do the list. To get people talking. And they get people talking. So that's it. That's kind of the situation there. Let's switch back to Dynamite last night. Of course, Jon Moxley defeated Minoru Suzuki in his homecoming match in the main event of Dynamite. Jon Moxley emerged victorious in a brutal, hard-hitting match against Minoru Suzuki on this week's AEW Dynamite. The main event match came to a conclusion when Moxley hit a second paradigm shift on Suzuki to score the pinfall. After Moxley delivered his finisher for the first time, Suzuki was busted open for the remainder of the match. Suzuki made his first appearance in AEW, where he made a surprise debut this past Sunday at All Out. He confronted Moxley after the former AEW World Champion defeated fellow New Japan Pro Wrestling star Satoshi Kojima. This, of course, is the second time that Moxley and Suzuki have had a physical match against each other. The first was at New Japan Pro Wrestling's New Year's Dash event in 2020, where Moxley was also victorious. Now, after the match, as I mentioned, Suzuki had to actually get stitches because of the cut he received during the match. Minoru Suzuki needed 7 stitches after his match against Moxley on this week's AEW Dynamite. This is according to Emi Sakura. Sakura posted a video of Suzuki walking in the backstage area after getting treated by AEW's medical staff. Sakura approached Suzuki backstage, and after their brief conversation was translated by a fan on Twitter, it said, quote, Mr. Suzuki, how was Moxley? And Suzuki said, "You're annoying. Go away." Which is tremendous. Look, obviously, I enjoyed it. I enjoy pretty much anything Minoru Suzuki does. I enjoy Jon Moxley, this version of Jon Moxley in AEW. It was a lot of fun. I think it's everything people wanted it to be. I hope to see it again, whether or not we see it again. But it was the perfect match, realistically. It was the perfect match for Moxley's homecoming, So I enjoyed it, and hopefully it's not the last of Minoru Suzuki that we have seen in AEW. The great thing is about him is that the guy's in his 50s, and he still is just such a badass. And he's a legit MMA fighter as well. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of this just crazy man, just absolute crazy man. And I hope they run it back again, and I hope they have another one. Maybe it'll happen in New Japan in the future. Time will only tell. But it was tremendous. It was absolutely tremendous. CM Punk. We know the next feud for CM Punk in AEW is going to be against Team Taz. CM Punk appeared on Dynamite last night after defeating Darby Allin at All Out, and it looks like the AEW star is heading into a program against the members of Team Taz. Now, Punk came out and the fans were chanting his name. Punk compared getting back into the ring to riding a violent bicycle, and he said he's looking forward to getting on it once again. He assured fans that he's just excited as they are for the main event, which was against Suzuki versus Moxley. Punk then followed the fans' pop by telling Aunt Linda, the woman that helped raise Brian Pillman Jr., that she was an angel. She was sitting in the front row and was met with a chant of Aunt Linda from the fans in Cincinnati, which was a tremendous moment. If you've watched that Dark Side of the Ring episode, you know just how tremendous Linda Pillman is. Punk then turned the attention to the multiple debuts at All Out, to Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. First person I texted as soon as I got out of the ring in Chicago was my beautiful wife, April, and she said, baby, what's next? And I said, I don't know. So Cincinnati, what's next? The crowd began loud chants for the hometown star Jon Moxley as well as Pillman Jr. This caused Taz to rise from the commentary table and grab a microphone. Punk, frustrated that he was interrupted, responded, out of respect, I'll let you speak, but don't ever interrupt me again. This is what Taz said, quotes, here's the thing, tough guy, I'm tired of this BS love fest you've been doing. That he did not says not to mention anyone from Team Taz, and that Punk has been mentioning his faction during interviews on social media. Punk then told him, quote, I'll tell you what, because I have known you a long time, because I do respect you, send Starks, send Hook, send me Hobbs, and I'll listen. Check it out. All four of you, beat me if you can, survive if I let you. Now, the segment ended with Punk posing in the ring with fans while Taz watched from the commentary table. So it looks like CM Punk's going to get his wish. CM Punk's been saying in a lot of interviews, which Taz referenced in his promo, that he wants to work with Ricky Starks, Will Hobbs. I don't know if he's going to work with Hook. Imagine Hook's debut matches against none other than CM Punk. 2021's been wild anyway, let alone if Hook's first match is against CM Punk. That would be madness, absolute madness. So I don't know if that's going to happen. But it looks like CM Punk's going to be getting his wish, and he's going to go through all of the members of Team Taz. Obviously, Darby Allin has history of Team Taz, so does Sting. So maybe we get to a point where it's like a six-man. Punk mentioned about possibly tagging with Darby and Sting in the future, so maybe that's where they go. Maybe that happens on the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite as well. Punk will wrestle on that show, I have no doubt. I hope to see him wrestle more frequently on Dynamite. I don't want to be seeing Punk just doing promos every week, and I don't think we will. But looks like Punk is going to go against Team Taz, which is interesting. And like he said, it's not right for him to go straight to Kenny Omega. Bryan Danielson is, but save it. You've got plenty of time. CM Punk wants to work with everyone, and he's going to work with everyone. And he wants to leave that legacy of working with younger guys and getting them over. If he wants to do that, then Powerhouse Hobbs or Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks versus CM Punk would be tremendous. I think it would be absolutely tremendous. CM Punk versus Hook. I don't know about that one, but I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. I think it's interesting. What is very surprising is we could be seeing Tully Blanchard versus Sting taking place inside of an AEW ring soon. Yes, both guys who are in their 60s, by the way. Now, on this week's AEW Dynamite, Tully Blanchard may have just issued a challenge for a future match with Sting. Now, during a backstage promo, Blanchard talked about how his leadership has helped Shawn Spears and FTR of the Pinnacle defeat the Dark Order. They defeated John Silver, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson in a trios match last night. This is what Blanchard said. Tony, this is kind of a flashback moment for me. I led them to the ring, and 3 stars just demolished the other team. That's what leadership was. You just watched it. Blanchard then mentioned how Sting was trying to capitalize off Allen's popularity. He then asked Tony Khan to book a match between Spears and Allen for next week. He said, quote, you look at Darby Allin and Sting, people from my past and present, and Sting, you're just trying to capitalize off of someone else, just like you have your whole career. And you know what, Darby? I'm going to put an end to it all. Next week, Tony Khan, I want you to book Shawn Spears versus Darby Allin. Blanchard then ended his promo by issuing a possible challenge to Sting. He said, quote, and then Sting, there's got to be a time when it's just you and me, one more time. Now, Sting and Blanchard, of course, battled several times in the 1980s over the NWA Tag Team Championships. Whether or not that happens as an actual singles match, I don't know about that one. To be honest with you, I really, really don't know about that one. Look, he did wrestle earlier this year. Of course, he wrestled against Jurassic Express in a trios match, Tully Blanchard. I could maybe see some kind of a tag situation, Sting and Darby versus Sting, Darby and Punk versus Blanchard and FTR, or maybe something like that. I don't know. But the singles match, I don't know that if that happens. An actual match, I don't know. I don't know how good that would be. I mean, Sting's great. I was critical of Sting coming back and wrestling, but Sting looks great. You can't argue with that one. Tully Blanchard, I mean, he's late 60s. I think he looked fine, but he was slingshot suplexing Marco Stunt. It's a different thing to be trying to do that to Sting. By the time they both hit the mat, I think they both turned to dust. But we'll have to wait and see if that one happens or not. But it's interesting, certainly interesting. Last night on Dynamite saw the Dynamite debut of Ruby Soho after she made her debut at All Out at the weekend. The newly signed Ruby Soho defeated Jamie Hayter via pinfall last night on Dynamite. After the match, Britt Baker and Rebel attacked Soho from behind, but Rio and Chris Statlander ran out to make the save for Ruby Soho. So I think we're probably going to see a situation where it's a trios match, probably Ruby Soho, Chris Statlander, Rio versus Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel. I think we're probably going to go in that direction. Ruby Soho, it's crazy, isn't it? Because she made her debut at the weekend, appeared on Dynamite last night, and she was released. She was released by WWE. Budget cuts. They determined that she wasn't worth the contract she was on. She feels like already just so much more of a bigger star than she ever felt in WWE. Whether it's the Rancid song, obviously the Rancid name, she just feels way more, again, just a bigger star already. And it just goes crazy. It's crazy. I think she's an excellent addition to the women's division, and I don't think she's going to beat Britt Baker for the women's championship, but she's certainly an excellent addition to that division. And look, it's just more talent, like I've said before, time and time again. There's no questioning that division is strong in terms of talent. No questioning. It's just a case of booking and getting it right. But look, they set up a lot. They're investing more time into it, certainly. We had 2 women's matches on the pay-per-view on Sunday. That's the progress that I want to see when it comes to the women's division in AEW. Now, we spoke about the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. We have a match already announced for it, and it's the return of Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes is set to return at AEW Dynamite Grand Slam on September 22nd at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. His opponent will be none other than Malachi Black. Now, of course, Rhodes has been away since early August after getting decimated by Black, who has since run through other members of the Nightmare family. Last night on Dynamite, Black defeated Dustin Rhodes, and we're going to get to the rematch between them at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. Now, again, I have no issue with this match. If anything, it's a big match for a big show. My issue will be if Cody Rhodes comes back to win, because I don't think he should. I think he should come back, and I think Malachi Black should beat him again, and then I think Cody Rhodes should be frustrated about this. I think Cody Rhodes should then be like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm trying to be this good guy all the time. I'm doing all of these stupid TV shows. I'm doing this reality show. I'm doing the Go Big show. I'm doing all of these things. And I'm an EVP of the company. I helped build this company. You fans love this company. You're always chanting AEW. We're doing the best business we've ever done. We've got people like Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Adam Cole all showing up. And this is me. I helped create this. And you know what? You have the nerve to boo me, because he gets a mixed response now. You have the nerve to boo me or be glad when I leave, or when I'm pouring my heart out in the middle of the ring and it looks like I'm going to retire. When I get attacked, you cheer. And again, I come back and I lose, and you're cheering for this guy, the epitome of the devil. You're cheering this guy over me. You know what? I'm done. I'm done being the saint. I'm done with this stupid Nightmare family stuff as well. I'm just going to be myself. And then he should turn heel, and then he should go back. What I don't want to see is Cody Rhodes, like he did last year, show up with black hair, emo Cody, comes out, and then he beats Malachi Black, because he's got to get that win back, brother. And that's what it's like. It's like Hulk Hogan, it's like Triple H, it's that kind of stuff, you know, the guy's in charge, got to get his win back. Cody Rhodes is a big star, remember that. So I just hope they don't do that. I have no doubt the match would be good, but it's really not the place for Cody to win. Really not the place, because you've got something special in Malachi Black. A lot of damage was done to him in WWE on that main roster, and they're slowly building him back up. His entrance is tremendous. His presentation is tremendous. I think it's going to be difficult to keep him as a heel, to be honest with you, because the crowd loves him. So why not do a double turn? Or why not just do something where Black beats him and then Cody just goes, you know what, I've had enough of this. And then turns heel, and then you have the full potential of Cody Rhodes, in my opinion. But whether or not they do that, time will only tell. Finally, Lee Moriarty has become All Elite, because last night, prior to Dynamite, there was Dark Elevation television tapings, and Lee Moriarty has accepted a contract from Tony Khan. This was during the taping of AEW Dark Elevation before Dynamite last night, following a match against Daniel Garcia. Now, Moriarty has been wrestling on AEW Dark recently in matches against Dante Martin, Joey Janela, amongst others. His first appearance for AEW was on August 17. Now, Moriarty, of course, has proven himself in his recent Dark matches and throughout his wrestling career in GCW, Warrior Wrestling. I think he had some time in MLW as well. That episode of Dark Elevation will air next Monday on September 13. So congratulations to Lee Moriarty, just another wrestler signed to the roster. It'll be interesting to see what happens for him going forward. I would suspect it's probably going to be more episodes of Dark and Dark Elevation, but you got to start somewhere. So congratulations to Lee Moriarty. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.